Mirchi Hotshot. Only on 98.3 Mirchi. It's hot.
I'd love to know where exactly are you actually right now. You're not in the sea.
All right, I wish I was at sea because I'm basically a seafarer and enjoying what I'm best doing. So I'm sitting in my office at the moment, and yes, the weather is good. I wish I was not in the office and outside.
सबसे पहला सवाल Maneesh sir, I'd like to ask you is seafarers का job exactly होता क्या है?
I know time is a limitation, but it's very difficult to explain what a seafarer does because he does so much. But just to give you an idea that everything that you see around you, whether it's the gas in your car, the fuel, the electricity, in some form or shape, everything that you see around you was brought on the ship. And who runs that ship is the seafarer. What you need to appreciate is that just like the doctors and the paramedics have been working 24/7, similarly, a ship never stops. It gets into port, picks up the goods, sails to the port, discharges, and the entire operation, it's an industry by itself. And these 20 odd people on the ship, each one unique to his own rank and duty, run the ship. There is no doctor on board. So whatever happens, it's a mental kind of thing or it's a physical illness, everything is dealt by themselves. So these guys are great guys. They make sure that the global supply chains are always kind of running smoothly. So there is one tagline which is very apt, is no shipping, no shopping.
That's a very, very, very clever tagline, and it's actually you're right. आपने जैसे ही कहा कि डॉक्टर्स को या फिर फ्रंटलाइन वर्कर्स को काफी सारे ऐसे प्रोफेशंस को आज की तारीख में बहुत सारा महत्व मिलता है, लेकिन सीफेयरर्स का इम्पोर्टेंस तो हमने जाना ही नहीं. I mean, we wouldn't have things that we actually deal with our daily life अगर हमारे पास सीफेयरर्स नहीं होते. तो I'm gonna keep this tagline very, very close to my heart. No shipping, no shopping. मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहूंगी कि we've seen कि इतने सारे cyclones आते रहते हैं. How exactly should we prepare, and how exactly do you guys prepare for a cyclone, because you are actually in the eye of the storm?
So there are weather prediction reports. There are very high-end weather routings which are provided to the ships. Storms happen. That's something you just can't control. You have to avoid, and you have to kind of take precautions. So before the ship is even likely to be getting into a stormy area, we make sure that everything is fastened and secured properly so that things don't go flying off. And yes, there is a way that you need to steer through a storm, and that's where your navigation skills are so important. It's just like a pilot when he goes through rough weather, how he prepares, how he aligns himself through the weather. That's exactly what a captain of the ship does. He aligns himself in a way so that the impact of the storm is lessened.
Yeah. The next question is Anglo Eastern और क्या करता besides being on the sea? Now you are in the office. So are there any other aspects of Anglo Eastern or seafarers जो हमें पता होने चाहिए?
Anglo Eastern is into the business of primarily managing ships. So there is a ship owner who trusts us to manage a ship well. He gives it to us, and then we take over the entire management of the ship. So one aspect of the management is the crewing, which is what we do from India. But then there is a technical management, there is operations, there's quality and safety. So there are a lot of facets to it, which is done out of our head office in Hong Kong.
This pandemic has actually affected a lot of people in a lot of ways. How did you guys cope up with it? Mentally more than physically?
So Prerna, how this typically works is the senior officers go on the ships for anything between 4 to 5 months contract. The junior officers is anything is close to 6 months. And then the workforce, the ratings, what we call, or the crew, they go on for about 9 months. Now, typically at the end of your tour of duty, your contract ends and you come back, and then you're replaced by a fresh pair of hands. Now, what happened was March end last year, the flights were abruptly just came to a grinding halt, and there was no way we could send people to join a ship or get the people back from a ship. So in that lockdown one, we had a huge number of people who were stuck on the ship. And the biggest problem of being stuck on the ship was not the fact that they were kind of free from COVID, because at sea they were at lesser risk, but their families are short. Many of them had problems with their families. So I know of a few cases who lost, I know of a very senior person who lost his life partner. And then he was on a ship in the middle of the sea. You can't even come back. Even if you come to a port, you won't be allowed to sign off because everything was locked down. The flights were not working. Then early June, it was thanks to Government of India that we managed to get permissions to get chartered flights. And then, many of us, many companies started relieving people using chartered flights. So by that time, the duty overruns had been massive. And what it does is when you're working in a tough environment where you're probably brazing storms and handling millions worth of cargo, you need to be mentally and physically fit. Now, if you're not there or if you're disturbed and you're tired, fatigued, that's when you also run a risk of having a mishap yourself. That is what we were very worried about. But touch wood, and thanks to God and thanks to the whole team that was working on board, everything worked fine. And, we saw an end to those days and people came back to their loved ones. And unfortunately, we came into lockdown 2, but it's not been as severe as lockdown 1 because we haven't stopped the crew changes, unlike lockdown 1. But yes, we are very limited because most of the destinations have shut their doors to Indians. They will not let your ship enter port maybe 14 to 20 days. And that's when you start suffering commercial losses. So, of course, the prime part is that infecting the ship is first running a risk to all the people on board. And then, of course, the secondary part is the commercial part. So we can't let either get affected. So I can only keep thanking my people for holding on and understanding and kind of bearing with the scenario. But I'm hoping that the better days come soon.
The last question that I have for you, sir. There are people जो tuned in हैं, चाहे वो parents हो, चाहे वो students हो, जो Anglo Eastern का हिस्सा बनना चाहेंगे. तो आप बताइए, what exactly is the career option? What are the prerequisites and what is the future like?
Okay, the future is that this is one of the best paying jobs you can get. I don't know how many people know this, but Merchant Navy guys are well paid. And they're well paid only because of the risks they take and the difficult life they lead. It's a direct relationship to the hardship. From the officer's point of view, there are two main streams. There is one navigation stream, what we call the deck officers, and then there are the engineers. The deck officers are in charge of the navigation and the cargo of the ship, and the engineers are in charge of everything that's technical, and primarily the engines. And the engineers have to do some, what they call marine engineering, and the deck officers have to do proper graduation in the navigation field. So there are government colleges for this, and there are private colleges, and we have our own academy as well, what we call Anglo Eastern Maritime Academy. So if you're really interested, because we take pride in the fact that we have one of the best academies in India. It's really modern, it's run by our own people, it's possibly the best equipped. And what they can do is after your +2, you can apply. There is an All India exam, which is an online exam. And then you can get selected, and then you do your training in the academy. That's for the deck side. For the engineering side, you have to be a mechanical engineer, and then you can, again, there's an All India exam, and then you can come back in, take part in the selection process. And once that's done, then you do the training in the academy, and then you go on the ship. The one thing that we assure you if you come to our academy is a job. No politics, no buttering the boss. You just go on flat out, work your heart out, and just conquer the world. In about 10, 12 years, you can become a captain or a chief engineer, earning anything between $10,000 to $15,000 a month tax-free. If you do more than 6 months outside India, and there are options ashore. I mean, especially now with Government of India having so many options and the kind of trade that India is looking at. So there will be a lot of maritime professionals who will be required to service the whole industry. And a good chunk of it will come off the ships who have actually experienced the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that will be, I'm hoping that day comes sooner than later.
What about young girls? Can they also sort of get into Merchant Navy?
I'm really happy that you asked this question. Anglo Eastern is a very gender neutral company. In fact, we are really promoting lady seafarers in our company. And so it's a matter of time. We hope that we reach to an equal share, 50-50. Believe it or not, Prerna, in my office, we are a 50-50. We are that gender neutral. I mean, we're conscious of the fact that girls are as good as men, if not better.
Thanks a lot. I wish you a very happy Seafarers Day.
Thank you, Prerna. Wish you the same. And keep all the seafarers in your good wishes and prayers.
Mirchi Hotshot, Mirchi Hotshot, Only on 98.3 Mirchi. It's hot.